Welcome back to the David Sparks Show. It's a show in the back of our house where we talk about things we like to talk about and issues of the day and news. And one thing I keep hearing, politics is starting its ascent. The every 2-year presidential campaign begins, and Bernie Sanders is out on the trail. He's getting big crowds. He's gaining in the polls, but he keeps saying there must be a political revolution in the United States. But I don't think a lot of people in the United States truly know on like a practical, what you can do basis, what that means. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that is often ignored, it's almost completely ignored and never publicized. We talk about the off-year elections, right? And how important those are to, state legislatures, congressmen, even though all these things are largely gerrymandered. But we forget about the vertebrae of the political parties on the local level.
I don't think that we forget about it. I think most people don't know about it. You say that it's not publicized. A lot of these offices that you're going to talk about are offices that nobody has ever heard of before.
Yes. So let me tell you about...
informed people do not know about some of these things.
Yes, I totally concur with you. Mm-hmm. And there is, in every county in America, where there's an active party, a Democratic Party or a Republican Party, there's what's called a central committee. Okay? And when we think about democracy, we really don't have democracy in America, because when you vote for a Republican or you vote for a Democrat, and I can't speak to the structures of some of the other third parties, but at least in the main two parties, you're voting for a candidate that has been approved by the executive central committee of that party's central committee. And usually, like in our county, there's around 900,000 to 1 million people, and there's about 330 precincts. And only about 132 of those precincts have anybody that runs for them.
Right.
Okay, and they run for the office of Democratic Central Committee person. Mm-hmm. And the Democratic Central Committee persons elect an executive committee. And usually it varies from county to county, because they do have different constitutions. Mm-hmm. The executive committee approves or recommends, endorses, if you will, candidates. And so the endorsed candidates will get the party money.
And those are the people that you hear about when you finally get a chance.
So you're voting for people who have been selected for you to vote on, not voting for necessarily ideas or anything else. These are people who pass the approval of the local Democratic parties. So that's on a local level. A lot of people become really frustrated with state and national politics because they're so big and they're so infused with money. But if you look at the local level on, say, the Democratic Party or Republican Party, whatever party you want to look at, you will find that those core elected positions that make up the group of people who will elect the executive committee, or those group of people, if they're in a majority, can change the constitution of a local party's infrastructure, or just to change the constitution, rulings. There's a lot of different things that are involved in that. That is where the political revolution, that is the only, short of mass violent mob revolution where everything is just basically stripped and there's blood in the streets and horrificness. That is the direct opportunity, the Achilles heel of the major parties.
Right.
But it exists on the local level, and we've seen how many times we've talked about stories where someone crazy from the Tea Party said something like outrageously racist or horrible, and you're like, how in the hell does this person get elected to office? Well, they get elected to office because people with similar beliefs to them infuse themselves into the they've done it in the Republican Party for sure, into these committee positions on the county level. They have no problem for running for dog catcher or school board.
And a lot of people don't vote on these issues. We have such just disgracefully low midterm election numbers.
Midterms are where all the action is.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous. That's why we have lunatics. We have gerrymandering, we got that problem. But people act like the presidential election is the only election. Those other ones are more important, I think, because that's why we have a deadlock Congress that is just not willing to work with the executive. They sometimes don't even like the judicial. So you got to get in from it's the bottom of the larger political system.
Sure. And so when he says political revolution, I think we need to really remember that these are offices. Most of them go completely unfilled. Nobody pays any attention, and most of them, even better than going unfilled, if you run for them, all you have to do to win is vote for yourself, because most of the time people don't run for these offices.
And a lot of people just go through, it's Democrat, Democrat.
And we think about the Democratic Party as the massive DNC Hillary Clinton machine. But if you go to the local level, and I'm not sure about the Republican Party, how this stands from what I've been exposed to on the local level, the Democratic Party is like going into a geriatric ward. There's very little to no participation beyond like really old school, entrenched
status quo,
Democratic
hacks.
Party hacks.
Yeah.
And if you would take this route that is open to us in a democracy that we have long ignored, because the parties don't like to talk about central committeeship elections. Say, well, they're not important. They don't really, but no, that's the vertebrae upon which the rest of the body is made up. So, political revolution.
Look into it where you are.
Look into it. If you think I'm completely out of tune, off whack, and there's no hope, tell me. I'd like to hear anything you have to say beyond like ridiculously stupid trolling. Thank you.